Okay, so we're back in the practice range for Thor today because I've gotten a lot of questions, and I figured I'd put the answers to these all in one place because a lot of it is asking stuff that I've covered in past videos that you kind of need as foundational knowledge to understand the stuff in the most recent video. And the reason for that is that I don't make Marvel Rivals general content. I don't make it for like beginners to Thor the character. I only make Thor content. I only make what I intentionally label as advanced Thor tech, with the understanding that people coming in to watch these videos are watching them with some baseline understanding of the character already. So a lot of the questions that I'm getting I'm realizing are from people that are not familiar with the character and sort of picking them up for the first time. Now, I don't make beginner content, but there is a really good guide that Jeremy, the number one ranked Thor, who is currently, I believe, ranked 41 on the top 500 leaderboard, solo queue Thor, he put out last month, or it was either last month or the month before, I don't know. But it's really good beginner content. So if I say things like blue hammer or hammer throw cancel or rune cycling, and you have no idea what that is, go watch that video. That's going to be the place that you want to start. That'll give you the foundational understanding of the character before you come into it and try to understand some of the stuff that I'm talking about, where we're doing a lot of min-maxing and technical work to make the character more viable. That being said, I do want to put all of this in one place just because, you know, I understand that it's not very satisfying to watch a video that's talking about animation cancels and state cancels and not really understand what the fuck they're talking about, and then you ask in the comment, oh, what are you talking about at 4 minutes and whatever, and I'm like, there's another video that I put out called Double Cancels, go watch that one. So I'm just going to put all this in the same place. To do that, though, I do have to cover some foundational stuff that if you are already familiar with the character, you might already know, so you can fast forward through this part or whatever. I'll put some segments in the description so you can just go to the part that you're actually looking for if you are looking for anything specific, okay? At the very baseline understanding of the character, you have to understand what it means in different contexts when I talk about cancels, because there are two types of cancels that I'm talking about when I'm talking about Thor. So with Thor, you have animation cancels and you have state cancels. Now, an animation cancel is a concept that is not exclusive to Thor or even exclusive to Marvel Rivals or the hero shooter genre. It's actually something that is a lot more common in like fighting games, things like that. But an animation cancel just means that you start one animation. It can be a jump, it can be a hammer swing, it can be whatever, and you interrupt it with a second ability that stops the full animation frame. So like all the frames that do this, the whole swing animation and him putting it back by his side, if you do another ability in the middle of that, it interrupts that, so you never see him pull the hammer back to his side. You might not even get to the full, all the way through the whole arc of his swing or whatever, but the damage for it will still come out. And then it will start the next ability and the animation for that ability whenever you do the input. And then they both will come out either really close to each other or simultaneously. Now, the most common animation cancel for Thor, all the way back to Season 0, was the hammer throw cancel, which is just primary, and then in the middle of the primary you throw out your hammer throw. It makes them both come out simultaneously because you're interrupting the hammer swing with the hammer throw, but the damage registration for the hammer swing happens pretty early in the animation. So what it looks like, you'll hear two distinct hit markers, but it just looks like the guy gets hit pretty instantly for 90 damage. Like that, okay? That's the most basic animation cancel in Thor. So when I'm talking about animation cancels, that's the sort of thing that I'm talking about. There's an animation cancel that's specific to combining a hammer with a rune, where you're doing the swing, but instead of interrupting it with a hammer throw, you're interrupting it with your awakening rune. So that looks like this, but in the middle, throwing one of those out. And when those come out simultaneously, it kind of looks like, this will be a slow version of it, but it'll look like that, but more simultaneous. You're not going to get it to register that distinctly. If you're doing it correctly, it'll look more like this. Okay, that was actually two animation cancels, just how to have it, but I'll cover those in a second too. Okay, that animation cancel is what I'm going to call a 115. So when I talk about a 115, I'm referring to a combination of a 45 damage hammer swing and a 70 damage rune from your awakening. You can open your awakening rune with a 115, and you can close it with a 115. We'll talk about that in a second. The other type of cancel is a state cancel. So a state cancel is when you put your character in any altered state, like here he's in awakening state, and then I'm canceling him being in that state. That's just a state cancel, Okay, it's not the only character that has one. Emma also has a state cancel, so if you put her in diamond form, it's supposed to last 8 seconds, but you can actually state cancel that at any time and just go back to her normal form. The reason this gets confusing when I'm talking about Thor, when I'm explaining Thor cancels to people, is because you're actually doing an animation cancel as part of your state cancel when you're ending your awakening cycle. So it's two different types of cancel, and it's just referred to as cancel. So I understand how that's confusing to people that are just kind of coming into the character for the first time, so I just want to clarify that. When I'm talking about awakening cancel, I'm not necessarily talking about canceling the state of awakening. I could also be talking about the 115 cancel that you're doing at the end of the animation to get your second Thorforce back. So let's say I'm doing a 115 to open, 1 rune, and then a 115 to close. I end with 2 hammers. I start with 115 damage, I do 70 damage, and then I end with another 115 damage, just 300 damage, okay? When you cancel the awakening state now, since the last change, you get 1 automatic Thorforce as a refund, and your hammer turns blue, okay? Your hammer turns blue because anytime you use an ability on Thor that costs Thorforce, which is the 3 little hammers in the middle, your resource there, you have a window of time where you got a blue hammer and you can hit somebody with a primary swing to instantly fill that hammer up. Okay? The reason that we do the 115 to end on the animation cancel and the state cancel, the reason that we're doing those simultaneously, both cancels, is because you get 2 hammers to end your awakening state instead of 1. So I have 2 now. Whereas if I don't do that swing at the end, and I just cancel, I've only got 1, and then I actually have to go hit him. It's not very effective. It's not very efficient, especially if you're right up on somebody's face anyway. It makes more sense to just do that, right? It's much better. The other reason it's important to know that the 115 cancels to start and end your cycle is because this is what's going to change the breakpoints on your 300 and below characters. So if you've been doing any mental math while I've been talking about this, you probably know that 115 plus 70 plus 115 is 300. So you can, in one little cycle, delete a 300 character if your inputs are tight and correct. Now, there's ways to do it where it's got a little bit more error tolerance. So, like when I was showing the slow version on the bot, you actually can do like a slower swing into that, and then cancel rune at the same time. So that's a matter of holding down your primary throughout the process, which I'm not doing there because I'm trying to stagger it out to show you. Now, what that looks like on 300 when you do it correctly is that. You're opening with a big burst of 115, you're doing a 70 rune, and then you're doing another close of 115, you end with 2 hammers. And then if you had somebody else that you were trying to brawl with, you would do your hammer throw to get your 3rd hammer back, and then go right back into another cycle and go back into brawling. Now they're dead. Now you've got your lightning realm. Now you've got 3 again. You go right back into that. Since I didn't hit him with the first hammer, the first 115 to open, he's still alive a little bit at 300. Like this is sort of like minimum baseline understanding of the character to really get what I'm talking about. But when we're talking about like management of your resources, you've got 2 abilities in your kit that give you Thorforce back, not counting Blue Hammer, because Blue Hammer is situational. You've got 2 actual abilities that give it back. So you've got your Hammer Throw, which will give you 1, and you've got your Lightning Realm, which will give you 1 for everyone that's in the Lightning Realm when you first throw it out. So you'll actually get more than 1 if you're surrounded by enemies or whatever. When we're talking about awakening cycling, like in the last video, it's optimal use of those cooldowns so that you are able to cancel your animation state, your awakening state, with the animation cancel. So you're canceling the awakening state with the animation cancel that gives you a swing at the end, so that you can fluidly go right into your next regeneration ability, whether that be Hammer Throw or Lightning Realm, to get you back up to 3 Thorforce, and then you dip right back into another awakening cycle. So in practice, that looks like now here I've got to wait out a little bit because I don't have any ability. Then hammer throw comes back up off cooldown. I do that again, and then I've got it again, and then I can just leave or whatever. Okay, now that was a little bit slowed down because I'm trying to demonstrate it. It goes a little bit faster in real life. I got a couple questions about the cycles themselves. I'll cover those too. One of the questions I got was, why do you do a 3 rune cycle instead of 4? And the reason for that is kind of what I was just showing on the Punisher. But the muscle memory that you really want to learn and get down, especially as a Thor player where your targets are going to be trying to like get on supports and blow up supports quickly, you want that 3 rune cycle to be in your muscle memory more than the 4 rune cycle. And the reason for that is that a 3 rune cycle, even if you fuck it up, will still kill 275. And if you get it perfectly correct, it'll kill 275. That's why you want the 3 cycle in your muscle memory, because if you get up close enough to someone, you can just fucking delete them, especially supports. Unless they've got like mag bubble, Hulk bubble, some kind of mitigation thing, DR, something along those lines. There's a lot of that in the game too. Don't get me wrong. But the 3 rune cycle, since it does 300, like let's say they've got some passive self healing, like a Mantis or a Luna that's just done her freeze or whatever. Like they've got something healing themselves. Doing the overkill to 300 is the one that you want in your muscle memory because it'll burn through that for pretty much everybody because of the speed that it comes out. Now, if you fuck it up like that one, you're only going to kill her off the 15 aura tick. That's why there was like a slight delay when she died. And if she's getting self-heal, then you're not going to kill off of that. So that's why it's important to do both 115s and get the timing for that down. Same with that. Like if I fuck that up, even if I had hit the cancel on that, it was still wrong because I didn't quite land the starting 115. That one I did. So it's going to delete the 300s. So when we're talking about like why do you use 3/4? For demonstration purposes, I'm using 3/4 because that's the fastest cycle to show you how quickly you can go plus 150, plus 150, plus 150, plus 75, plus 150, plus 75 on your bonus health regen. But from a practical point of view, 3 is just the one that you should be more comfortable with. Now, if you're against a tank, go for the 4 rune cycle. It's fine. There's no hard and fast rule about this. This is all stuff that you'll play by ear as you get more used to playing the character. And the reason I didn't explain that like super clearly in the last video is just, again, making content for other Thor mains, they know this. They know that every cycle is not going to be just quickly as possible going back out into your this. Because there are going to be extended brawl phases where you don't need to cancel. If I'm not taking damage, I don't need to cancel to go again into another rune cycle because I don't need to generate another 150. Not yet. So you can sort of delay and pause and decide how long your rune cycles need to be based on the situation. But for instantly deleting 300s and less, you want to get that 3 cycle down. And for cycling as quickly as possible, you want to get the 3 cycle down. Now, you can technically do a 2 cycle, but it's kind of ass. And it staggers your cooldowns out in a way where you're not going to have the hammer throw back up at like a reasonable amount of time for the 4th cycle. So 2 cycle is just not great, and it doesn't kill anything as far as because it's only doing 230. So it's not something you should really get into your muscle memory, is doing the 2 cycle, or the 2. When I say the 2 cycle, I mean the 2 rune cycle. Let's see. The other question I got was, what do I mean by bonus health point cycling or stalling? So Thor has a quirk in his kit where his bonus health will start to decay after 3 seconds. And I made like a 2-minute video about this, but it's like super min-maxy. So I didn't want to put it in the original video, but I did make like a quick 2-minute video about it. And I'm going to include an explanation of that here because it is kind of relevant, especially in these brawl phases. So Thor, when he gets bonus health, which he gets from any ability that uses Thorforce, whether that's his Surge or his Awakening, 75 or 150, he's capped at 150 bonus health no matter what, and it starts to decay after 3 seconds, okay? After 3 seconds, it starts to decline at a rate that you can see here. And the reason that it stops there is because Thor's bonus health decay has another weird little property to it where if you gain Thorforce from any ability, it actually, or you gain bonus health too, because it will just add on top of it. But any ability that gives you Thorforce back or adds Thorforce to yourself, or adds bonus health to yourself rather, will reset the decay timer. So let me show you what that looks like. So let's say I do my Awakening cycle. It's going to be 3 seconds, right? Then it starts to decay, but if I do that to get a Thorforce back, I paused it at 722. It's decaying again. I do that. Now it's paused at 666. Even though I didn't technically get one back because I was already full, it still pauses it because it knows it's an ability that should be giving Thorforce regen. So any abilities that would give you bonus health or would give you a Thorforce back will pause that process. But you do have to hit something with it with the hammer throw. It doesn't just pause automatically. Same. I think it's the same for the lightning round, but I'm actually not sure. Let me test that in real time. Might not be for that one. No, it is. Okay. So you do actually have to get a Thorforce back. I've never tested that because I always am getting Thorforce back. But okay, good to know. So it's only on actively getting Thorforce back or actively getting bonus health that the 3 second decay timer resets. Now, why that's useful and what I'm talking about when I'm talking about like BHP cycling or stalling or whatever. Let's say I'm in a brawl phase. I'm not taking damage, but I do see that my health is starting to decay. I'll pause it there because then I can just go back into it like that. And I want to. You want to stay as close to 750 as possible without giving yourself so much of an overage that you're wasting your Thorforce by doing it. So you're kind of always balancing. Like, let's say here I'm at 150. I cancel. If nothing's hitting me and I've got the Thorforce already to go back into Awakening whenever I want, I could just go ahead and do it when I get back to 600. But I don't need to necessarily do it like when I'm at 720 or 715. Like if I do it there and nothing's hitting me, it's not that big of a benefit. So you kind of are weighing like the value of doing more of these 300 bursts from that versus the value of resetting your BHP or the value of canceling and doing something else so that you are resetting the decay timer. So there's a lot of min-maxing that you can put into it. The reason I wouldn't focus too much on this is because in practical scenarios, if you are brawling on a front line, you're pretty much always going to be taking damage to an extent where going back into it pretty quickly will make sense. But you can do this and keep that 150 just on hammer swings for a while between your hammer throw and then your lightning realm, just from doing the decay delay. That being said, you're going to get more value out of just cycling the Awakening rune. So it's really more for like niche situations where you're like, oh fuck, like I maybe don't have enough to go back into Awakening yet, but I do have a hammer throw, and I want to keep that over health like while I'm trying to get away or whatever. And then you would surge away, and then that'll give you 75 and also reset the decay timer too. So there's places to use it. I wouldn't focus on it too much. Just think of it as like a passive thing that happens more than anything, but you will occasionally find situations where it's kind of useful to do something to deliberately keep your bonus health high. Let's see. Somebody asked, I had a couple of people ask or comment on this. I had knocked the Groot off the platform, and then in the video I did a vertical surge to push him back up and just take him back up to the platform. This is something I covered a long time ago, and this is not like something that I invented or anything. This isn't like one of my tech combos or anything. This is not discovered tech. This is like a pretty basic part of Thor's kit. Vertical surges are just something that Thor does. Whenever you do a storm surge, it goes in the direction that you're pointing, which is why you can do surges straight down into the ground. You can do surges straight vertical. And the carry applies the same way. So there are different values for Thor's Storm Surge distance based on charge and based on whether or not it makes contact with somebody. So that's why you get used to spacing where you can push people off the ledge, is when learning those spacings. So if I do a 0 charge surge, I know that it's going to carry him 6 meters. Every time, right? Where that becomes useful is like if you're fighting on a map that has like windows. So like let's say that one map that's on I think it's Midtown. It's got like a convoy in the middle on the very, very last leg of the last checkpoint. It's got the 2 buildings on the side, right? You can push somebody up into that window and just hold them up here by body blocking and keeping them away from their team, pushing them back further, whatever. Vertical surges are really useful for stuff like that. So if you saw that in that last video, and this is kind of where I realized like, okay, this video is getting to an audience outside of my normal, like people that already play Thor audience. That's just a vertical surge. There's an older video that I put out called Math, Micro, and Ults that talks about some of the like vertical surges and things along those lines. Some of the data in that and some of the math in it and some of the information is going to be out of date since the Hammer Throw rework and having Awakening cancel and some of the other stuff has come out since. But vertical surge tech has not really changed much. Surge tech in general is not really any different. And then there's also ledge surges where you can do like you push them off just by aiming your crosshair down to wherever you want to end your surge at, but making sure that there's enough charge or space to push them off the edge too. So that's something that I cover in another video. You can go watch it if you want. It's got nothing to do with the Awakening Cycling. Other questions I got: when will you make controller content, or like how do you do this on controller, or why do you hate controller players? I don't hate controller players. I played Overwatch on controller on console for years. I played Destiny and Destiny 2, multiple. Every time there's an active Destiny expansion, whatever, going to the lighthouse on my little fucking controller shooter game. So I don't have a problem with controller, but the problem that I have with making controller content is that I don't care. There's no difference in input as far as like what abilities you're inputting and the timing. The only difference is what buttons you're pressing to do it. So whatever button you press to do this and then this, it's going to be the same on your controller. As far as the abilities, you're pressing different buttons to do it. So I don't need to make controller content. Just if I say M1, I mean primary swing. If I say M2, I mean hammer throw. If I say E, I mean lightning realm. If I say F, I mean rune. If I say shift, I mean surge. And it's all down at the bottom right. They're all labeled. I normally will actually call the abilities by their name because I know that people with controllers do watch. But the reason I don't make controller content is just because there's no point. It's the exact same shit. Just make the corresponding inputs for the abilities that I'm talking about. That's all. And then I got a couple questions where they were like, why is most of your content practice range content? Like, are you ever going to post like gameplay videos, stuff like that? The answer is no, probably not. The reason is the stuff that I'm talking about is for other Thor players. They don't need to see my gameplay. I post clips of my gameplay all the time in Jeremy's Discord, or I'll post games in there, or I'll do VOD reviews, things like that. The reason I don't put them on YouTube is because, kind of like I was talking about at the start, this content is for people that already play Thor. They don't need a fucking clips highlight of me smashing up, like, who cares? Who cares? This is for tech and for math and for mechanical stuff. I don't do gameplay streams, and I don't stream my shit. I get to Celestial every season, and I pretty much quit playing because I don't care about grinding. If my stats are public, if you're asking because you think that it doesn't work in real games or whatever, like it does. I promise it does. It's like my profile is public. I've been Celestial multiple seasons. You can go look. I don't give a shit. But the reason I post practice range content is because when I'm trying to demonstrate something, like let's say I was showing you that 300 hit on the Punisher, right? So let's say I was showing you the double cancel thing, and I fuck it up. Like, we don't know offhand if I fucked that up because he got healed during it, or if like he got some sort of DR ability from a thing or whatever, or like something else happened to make him live through that, aside from me just fucking it up. When I do that in a blank practice range, nobody else is here, you know that a Hela didn't snipe him from across the map to add to that. you know that it was my input 100%. That's why I do all my videos in the practice range, because I'm talking about technical shit, mechanics, and math, and I don't need outside variables interrupting what I'm trying to show. Now, is that combo going to kill every Punisher in every game you ever come across? No, because there are other variables. So, you know, if the reason that that's being asked is because, you know, you think that it's going to be different in a practical environment, of course it's going to be different in a practical environment, because they're getting heals, there's other abilities that will give them damage reduction, or like bubbles or whatever. That being said, I have plenty of successes with doing all of these things in real games. It's just, you know, it's not going to be the same 100% success rate that it is doing it on a bot, obviously. But everybody sort of innately understands this, I think, except for the specific people asking that question. Other than that, I think that covers pretty much all the main stuff that got asked. So if I'm talking about 115s, I'm talking about the 115 to start and then the 115 to end. If I'm talking about a cancel, I could be talking about the canceling of the awakening state itself, or an animation cancel. It just depends on context. If I say the sentence, you have to animation cancel your during your state cancel to get the 115, because that's what gives you the blue hammer, and then you could do one of your regen cooldowns to go to 3 and go back into another awakening cycle. That sentence sounds like fucking gibberish if you don't know anything about Thor, but if you watched this video and understood everything that I was just talking about, then everything that I just said should make perfect sense to you now. If it doesn't, still, for some reason, that's okay. But I would just say, go check out one of the Thor guides, and I cannot recommend Jeremy's highly enough. Again, that's the top Thor player in the world, regardless of what some video might say about, oh, we played with the #1 ranked Thor. No, you didn't. Jeremy's the #1 ranked Thor. It's not even fucking close. He's as of yesterday, he was ranked, I believe, 41 in One Above All. So. And he's got another account that's also, you know, right up by top 500 now too. It's not even a competition. So, yeah, go watch his guide, because he knows a lot about the character too. So, other than that, if you have any other questions, you can feel free to leave more comments, or you can go into Jeremy's Discord, because I hang out in there, and I'll answer questions in there too, specific to Thor. If you have other questions, like about specific 1v1s, counters, how to counterplay certain comps, whatever, like I'm fine answering things like that in there too. I just don't tend to make videos about that, because again, it's just not the type of stuff that I make, and not really what the channel's for. So take care, have a good one, bye.